Well, we're joined now by constitutional law expert Tanveer Jeewa. Good evening, Tanveer. Thank you for your time. This matter has been ongoing for over a decade. This action of the President coming after the investigation or inquiry done by the Judicial Service Commission. Hlophe's lawyers, however, seemingly not happy with the move, and in fact have been saying today that it is politically driven that the President has suspended him. When you look at why the suspension has taken place, particularly now, was it warranted?
Thank you so much, Kathy, for having me for such an important discussion. I think the decision was definitely warranted. I mean, Section 177(3) of the Constitution precisely makes space for situations where there is a recommendation by the JSC, but the National Assembly has yet to make a resolution, has yet to adopt a resolution. So in the meantime, I think Benjamin from Judge's Matter already mentioned, looking at the integrity of the judiciary, it doesn't bode well for a judiciary where there is someone who is quite literally about to be impeached or not, still sitting on different matters at the Western Cape High Court, for example. And in those meantime, you do need the President to actually act, and especially on the advice of the Judicial Service Commission, right? A commission that is precisely experts in this matter and actually recommending for the President to suspend. So the President using this power right now, I think it's a good, we've waited for a very long time, but I think it's also comforting to know that the President has looked at the different options that were available to him and then decided based on that to act under his powers under 177(3) of the Constitution. So I think it's comforting, yes.
The recommendations of the JSC came out months ago. In that period, Judge Hlophe has taken the matter to courts. He is challenging the findings of the JSC report. He says he wants to take that matter on review. He's also, of course, wanting to interdict even the President's own step to suspend him while the rest of the processes unfold. Is it premature of the President being aware of the various legal steps that he's taken to have still gone ahead and suspended him?
Thanks, Kathy. I think that's an important question. I think we also need to consider the background of the fact that this has been going on for way more than 10 years now. We've seen a lot of Stalingrad tactics of a lot of appeals and a lot of reviews that have led us only now in 2022 to look at something that should ideally have been finalized back in the 2000s, right? So already when we're looking at asking whether something is premature 10 years down the line, it would be without necessarily looking at the context. But also, Kathy, we need to think about the fact that a lot of times the reviews and appeals, of course, there are times where appeals, obviously, all the time, appeals will suspend the outcome of a judgment before. But this is a unique power that the President has on the basis of this JSC finding. And the JSC finding is very much there with the legal advice for the President to act on it. And we cannot say it's premature for the President to then act on it because obviously there are still avenues for Judge Hlophe to then challenge this decision that the President has made. But for the President to then constantly wait to see whether any appeals have had any fruit would also be questioning, again, just back to the integrity of the judiciary. Can the President do anything then if we come to the conclusion that there is a judge that needs to be impeached and we're waiting for the National Assembly? If the President would have to wait for Judge Hlophe to actually go through all the channels of reviews and appeals that are available to him, then in that case we would still be waiting for a very long time, as we've seen for the past 10 years.
So ultimately you're saying that it's the President's prerogative to make this decision, and the suspension doesn't, of course, automatically mean that he is impeached, and therefore perhaps also gives him room to pursue some of the legal avenues that he may want to. There's been a lot of reporting about the instability at the Western Cape Division of the High Court and the tensions there, because we also know that his deputy, Judge Goliath, had raised concerns about him with the JSC and reported various matters there. Do you think that this decision will have an impact on relations at that court in that sense?
Well, I think we'd have to play a guessing game, but I think it would be almost silly to assume that there is no impact at the Western Cape High Court, right? But I think we then need to balance in terms of the impact of having a long-standing judge that has many, many complaints against him, again, back against 2000s, even before the Justice Nkabinde and Justice Jafta saga, there has been complaints against Judge Hlophe. So I think we need to discuss and really think about the balance that we're looking at right now, whether having a DJP be the acting judge president in the meantime would outweigh the instability that was brought by the fact that there was quite a lot of scandal around Judge Hlophe. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the only reason Judge Hlophe managed to stay there for so long without any outcome on the impeachment process is precisely because there's no outcome on the impeachment process. You would think that a judge who believes that they are not guilty of gross misconduct would actually try to get to the end of the matter. And that being said, we bear in mind the fact that it is very possible that Judge Hlophe doubts the constitutionality of the matter. But then again, there are appropriate forums for that, and I'm not really sure whether the review and appeal of every single outcome from every single institution is the way to go. But Kathy, I also want to highlight that you're absolutely right. This was in the president's discretion. It is a power exclusively reserved to the president under Section 177(3) of the Constitution, where the president has the discretion, to actually suspend the judge. So regardless of the outcome of the other appeals that we're looking at right now, if the advice of the JSC is that the president should impeach, the president very much can actually act on these powers. And like you said, Judge Hlophe is very free to then explore his avenues of appeal and review. And I think that was the correct decision that was made by the president.
All right, Tanveer Jeewa, we'll leave it there for tonight. She's a constitutional law expert.